Hi everyone, Magnus here, and today's video is going to be a little bit different than normal. Instead of some educational content today, we're going to be looking at some funny moments of the past, and most importantly, the invention of, I think, what was named the bong cow, where basically it's a combination of the bong cloud and the cow at the same time, and I'll show you how I got the better of the cow's creator herself, Anna Cramling, in the 30-second bullet match. I think it must have been almost 8 months to a year ago now. So, starting off with the first game, we played a couple 30-second bullet games before this. They were back and forth. I wasn't getting a big advantage with any real openings, so we both ended up... so I think she ended up diverting towards the cow first. I could tell immediately, pawn e3, you already know what's coming. So I obviously respond with pawn e6 because the best way to meet the cow is by responding with the cow. You can't let yourself get humiliated and try and actually play some proper responses. That'll be your first huge mistake. If you get caught out with some not trick opening, but some troll opening, I won't dare to call the cow a troll opening. But if you get caught out with something like the bong cloud, you got to do it back. That's basic rule of chess. Someone bong clouds on you, you got to respond with it. Otherwise, you're basically guaranteed to lose either way. If you win, it's not a real win, and if you lose, that's going to be rough. So anyway, d3, of course, standard cow theory. I respond with knight e7. This is a little cow sideline here, bringing out the knight first before you put out the other pawn. Might not be respected by the creator, but I play d6, transposing back into the main line. Knight g3, another deviation from standard theory. Normally knight d2 here is the main line. I respond with knight d7, a true solid cow opening. She goes knight d2, I play knight g6, deciding to play more on the queen side. You never know what can happen, maybe we can get some play over here. She goes knight b3, I go knight g6. Now we've got perfect symmetry. As you can see, both players have played really strong openings. Really good openings from both sides. Very little time used here, as you can see. You can blitz these moves out. They're just, extremely strong. And king e2. Now, king e2 is a very interesting move here. I believe that the point is to humiliate me and try and convince me that I have to copy. Given my own rules, I should be playing king e7. But, I played bishop e7 here, which was a huge mistake. As you can see, I should be going king e7. If I don't go king e7, then I've got all of the mental pressures that I have to win the game now with bishop e7. Although, admittedly, I think king e2 is a mouse slip. I imagine she went to go bishop e2. I go bishop e7. She goes f3, another interesting move, looking to give the king some more breathing space. Maybe she's going to go king f2, and then king to e1. Really just trying to get the king running around. If you get the king some exercise, it can be more active in the endgame. You really got to build up that stamina. So I go bishop d7. Bishop d7, standard cow theory, developing the bishops out to e7 and d7. She goes king f2. And king f2, I guess she's doing the plan, getting the king active, maybe trying to triangulate in the opening. If you triangulate, you can make it so that your opponent's moved and you've wasted a tempo, so it's really good to try and waste tempo like this in the opening as much as possible. That way you can trick your opponent into overextending and developing too much. She goes pawn d4, taking some more center space, and I'm going to whip through the next couple of moves. h4, this is standard cow response, targeting the knight on g6. I go king h1, trapping my knight. Which is really a good move, because now the knight has no backward squares, and I'm inciting her to go h5, which h5 is the best move, and she plays it, which is relatively unsurprising. I decide to strike back with this move f4 and just give up my knight and open up the h-file. She obliges, I take back, and we play a bunch of moves. I give a random check because it's 30-second chess. She blocks up, but you can see now the pawns are okay. We do get a quick brilliant move here. But I was just going to say, we've now got a French structure I can try and break out here. Brilliant move, sacks the bishop. I go here for some reason. The queen's coming around. It looks like I'm getting checkmated, but I play this sneaky little move, bishop f6, covering up. She takes, I take back, and now, you know, there's no checkmate. And I decide to give a check myself, bring up the rook, and all of a sudden, my knight's defending the rook, and I'm not dead. She gives me a check, my king goes for a run. I trade queens instead of taking back the rook because, I don't know, I did it in 1 second. She trades queens with me, I'm completely lost. I try and break out. I don't actually know what happened. Oh, I won on time. You know, classic bullet technique here. When you don't know what to do, just move fast and make random pre-moves. That's really good technique right there. Okay. Now, moving on to the next game, I decided to take some lessons from a master of the cow herself, and I play e3, knight e2, standard cow development, and I adopt the novelty by her last move, and I play king e2. Now, this is what the start of the bong cow. And the bong cow is when you mix up the cow and the bong cloud because you feel like the bong cloud just isn't enough of a disadvantage already. And it's especially potent when your opponent goes for the cow as well. As you can see here, cow symmetry. Because once your opponent's gone for the cow, they've tried to neutralize the disadvantage of playing against the cow, being the psychological disadvantage. And you've just introduced a new psychological disadvantage, which is that you're now playing the bong cow. Now, she responds, she ignores me. She seems like she's copying my theory from last move. Develop the bishop and castle. I go f3, transposing into the line from last game. Get the king some activity. Like I said, you want the king to warm up. That way, so in the endgame, your king can run faster than the other king and you'll win all the king and pawn endgames. I go king f2, c4, striking in the center, closing everything down. And I go for the same h4 plan. Just hangs a pawn. But she doesn't take it. I push. We get some trades. Knight e2, king e1. Couple more captures. Knight c3. Some random moves here. She decides to take a pawn. Doesn't trade queens. I'm really happy to trade queens because my king's just running around in the middle. Absolutely no protection here. I play bishop c4. Really, really good move. Checking the black king. And then she just takes the bishop. I then bring a knight into the center, putting some pressure on the bishop. She decides not to defend the bishop. I decide maybe it's best not to take the bishop because if you can take a piece, maybe it's better just to get the king some more activity, get the king moving around. That piece will always be there unless it moves away. So of course she decides to take my knight, so I can't take the bishop anymore. I take back. We move around the rooks. I decide to trade while down material because I'm losing, so I may as well lose more. Give some checks, give another check, bring my rook to the center, and I'm down like 4 pawns and a bishop, so that's not too bad. I start actually taking some pawns here. I believe we get the rook trade, and actually I end up sneaking this pawn into h6 here. Classic bullet trick. I end up getting close to the promotion square. Unfortunately, I was stopped. But now I actually end up trading the pawn off, and this is a drawn endgame, technically. This is the one piece of educational value that might come from this video is that this is a drawn endgame. And the point is that I'm going to put my king in the corner. You can never kick it out because it's a light square. This is a dark squared bishop, and this pawn can never promote. So I start running to the corner, but I run too slowly. And of course, this may not be a technically winning endgame, but it's a winning endgame if you're willing to dirty flag. And that's exactly what happened. I got flagged. So, you know, playing the cow against a cow master, it's always going to be a bit back and forth, a little bit shaky. But here's where it really picks off. I locked in the next game. We had some. She decided to divert away from the cow theory. And that's the biggest mistake. Once you're in playing these openings against each other, you got to stick with them. As soon as you divert, and as soon as you lose against one without responding with a cow, then it's all downhill. You're never going to come back from that. Okay, so I'm of course playing the cow sideline here, not the 2 pawns, but the knight followed by the other knight, followed by the bishop, followed by castling. And here's actually a standard cow idea. You want to trade off your knight that you've spent 3 tempo developing. You want to trade it for their knight that spent 1 tempo developing. And the reason is because their knight's actually better placed than your knight after just 1 move, even though you've moved your knight 3 times. So it's really good just to be like wasting time developing and just moving this knight around. And the reason it's so good to waste all this time is because you can give them loads and loads of central space. which you can then actually attack later on in the game. And in Bullet and Blitz, actually, it's not too bad because most people can't take advantage of space advantages in that time as well. So we end up just trading. I set up the cow fortress. We got the lone cow here on c5, or maybe my horse would be sad to be called a cow, but it is what it is. We got the lone horse on c5, really nice outpost here, guarded by 2 pawns. She decides to give me the bishop pair. And, this is where the cow really comes to life in the endgame. We're going to open up some files here. Or not. We're going to lock everything down and kill the bishops. I play f5. Probably a mouse slip here. But, you got to do what you got to do. Hanging a pawn. Now got this horrible structure. We decide to trade everything. And I've got 13 seconds to wait. You already know what's going to happen. Here comes the dirty flag. Random moves get played. And a really big blunder here. Queen c3 doesn't really matter. We get the flag. All right. So now the first win with the cow versus a normal opening comes out. This is probably where the tilt's starting to set in a little bit. I play the cow once again. She doesn't want to play the cow anymore. She's sick of that. Sick of that nonsense. Pretty disappointing from a cow master, but I go for the standard lines. And I actually bring back the bong cow. I really think that the bong cow's got some good potential here. Just add some extra embarrassment, especially when your opponent's tilted. They're going to make some rash decisions against you, and let's see what we can get away with. Okay, I think this was probably one of the worst games I've ever played and won. So this is going to be some fun. I don't know. I locked the center. It looks like I hung a queen, but I didn't quite. I decided to get the king some exercise. I wasn't quite feeling brave enough to take back here with the king. But maybe I should have. Probably should have. I take back with the pawn, and somehow the engine says that white's better. This is very interesting. I've basically just moved my king around, moved knights to bad squares, and traded a piece. So really interesting stuff there. I develop towards the king, and here is where some serious dodgy stuff starts happening. G gives a check, which looks like a tactic, and it is a tactic. And I move my king to e2 because, I've really just been enjoying moving my king around in these 3 squares. And she has the opportunity to fork me here on g3. Doesn't quite go for it, just takes a bishop instead. Understandable. I recapture here. Offer a queen trade because, I'm completely screwed. She decides maybe it's not best to trade queens, but we can go for the same trick again. Maybe try and leave the queen undefended. And if this is actually a really strong psychological play, knight g6. Newer players might not understand it. They might think it's just losing a queen, but actually the idea is that because we're playing in 30-second bullet, hopefully I'm going to not take the queen on this move. Then, as soon as I've played my move, like pawn a4 for example, I'm going to notice that queen's hanging, and then I'm going to lose the plot, and I'm going to tilt. So actually, knight g6 is really strong positional move, thinking forward into the next game and trying to get me really annoyed for the next move. Unfortunately, I don't think it worked. No, I just took the free queen. And then I started pushing, and, the bong cow gets its first big victory. Actually, that's not true. The cow master herself did get the bong cow victory, but I think this might be the first intentional bong cow victory. Just trade off and checkmate. So that felt pretty good. And finally, we end here. One last cow for the road. It's the last game I've ever played against her. Actually got a really nice cow position. Standard cow theory yet again. This is exactly what you want. This kind of position where you've got the opponent has overextended pawns you can target and try and develop an attack. So this is actually really nice. I don't know. I probably blundered like bishop checks or some other thing here. Doesn't really matter. It's 30-second bullet. Cover up, get the trades. And yeah, just trade into the endgame. Once again, get your king nice and active. You want your king as far into the position as possible. As they say, a king must lead by example. And if your king isn't getting its hands dirty, then really what's the point? What's the point? How are the other pieces going to be inspired to do their work? So, we get the bishop out. Bishop's feeling a little bit lonely. Maybe we need to get the king out soon. So I, get the king doing some more work here. Don't really know what the point of that was. Probably getting out of the way of a check. She then checks me. Trades off. My position's terrible, but I did just win a pawn. And actually, this was quite nice. Cover up. This is disconnecting the 2 rooks, blockading the position. She decides to sack the rook. She decides to take here, and as you probably expect, it's a king move once again. Often the winning move is a king move. You should always try and look for these king moves. But actually, the king does just put some pressure on the knight, and the knight can't be guarded. King's got to get his hands dirty, get in there. You know how it goes. Trade off the last pair of rooks, and it's just an easy conversion. I take all the pawns, promote to a queen, and deliver the ladder checkmate that you have seen in my basic checkmates video. If you don't know how to do a ladder checkmate with queen and rook, or with queen and king, or rook and rook, and you find yourself stalemating all the time, that is the video for you. I can leave that one in the description if you want. Either way, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this slightly different video, a little bit more entertainment rather than educational value, but there's still some little nuggets here and there. Either way, see you next time. Bye.